Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Naglieri, and I will be presenting on the bearing delivery project. After doing research in the bearing cell, it is apparent that our current production of bearings could use improvement. Boeing relies on our production and timely delivery of bearings to assemble their aircraft in both a timely and effective way. Currently, 1,600 bearings are being delivered each quarter, with an on-time production rate of 76%. In order to maintain our contract with Boeing, they have changed their requirements of the quantity and timeline of the deliveries. Boeing needs another 3,200 bearings to be delivered each quarter, with an on-time delivery rate of 99%. Boeing has suggested to management that if we cannot meet their new deadlines, they will look elsewhere for future business. The aim of this project is to both help increase the ability of the bearing cell to produce the bearings, as well as ensure a timely delivery of the product to our stakeholders. In order to do this effectively, the area leaders must focus on performance of the secondary suppliers, staffing levels, cross-training of existing employees, ordering the right number of needed machines, eliminating wasteful steps in the production process, and unifying organizational planners, suppliers, and production employees. The timeline for the project is a total of 31 weeks. The project would begin on September 1st, 2016, and Boeing has set the timeline to end on March 31st, 2017. By the end of the project, Boeing expects that the deliveries will have both doubled and been delivered on time. The main objective of this project is to help the bearing cell double their production rates and provide a more timely delivery for Boeing. Success criteria is measured by the bearings being doubled to 3,200 parts per quarter. Boeing has set this standard because of their increase in aircraft production. They have also noted that in the past, their success in building the aircrafts is based on receiving the bearings in a timely manner. Their chief complaint in working with UTC currently is that we are only delivering on time 76% of the time. This is not an acceptable marker to them because it delays their production. Therefore, this project has been designed to help make our deliveries on time 99% of the time. On-time delivery and positive relationships with customers will lead to rewards for the shareholders. Upon completion of this project, another goal is to show Boeing that we are capable of meeting their needs, thereby opening future potential contracts. There are three approaches to this project: decentralizing management, resource planning, and the implementation of daily management meetings. Management will be decentralized in order to flatten the managerial structure and facilitate the decision-making process. By decentralizing the management, it gives the employees who are part of the project the ability to make some smaller, immediate need decisions without waiting for the approval from the entire chain of command. This approach was designed to help shorten the length of the project and increase employee buy-in, thereby helping to achieve our desired results. Another important project approach is the resource planning. It is imperative that the management team delegate this into three categories. These categories are machine orders, training and cross-training of new and current employees, and selecting a new parts supplier. The idea behind delegating these three projects is to help shorten the project timeline. Each area will be responsible for carrying out duties provided in the work breakdown structure. Machine orders will require researching and pricing new equipment, obtaining a budget approval for said equipment, and purchasing the needed supplies. It is set to last 9 weeks, beginning from October 5th, 2016 to November 30th, 2016, and will need help from the accounting and maintenance divisions. The second team will address training. Training is planned to take 8 weeks beginning from December 12th, 2016 and ending on February 6th, 2017. The training team lead will be tasked with identifying the employees that are certified to train others, establishing which employees will need training, providing on-the-job training, and providing continuous assessment based on pre-outlined performance criteria of the employee's effectiveness, and they will need to retrain anyone as necessary. This team lead will require help from the Human Resources Department, Management, and Equipment Maintenance divisions. The third and final team lead will be required to manage assessing and finding new suppliers for the bearing parts. The duties will include assessing current suppliers based on current production and timelines, meeting with new suppliers and obtaining clearance, comparing suppliers, and determining the cost effectiveness of changing suppliers. The timeline for this will be 7 weeks, beginning September 15, 2016, and continuing until October 27, 2016. The other divisions needed will be the accounting division and management. Lastly, during all of the planning, management meetings will be held daily on weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. to discuss any risks, issues, and provide an open forum to discuss questions and concerns regarding the project. Each section of the project will have delegated tasks and team leads. Team leads were selected based on experience in the field, education level, and length of time at UTC in the bearing cell. Each team lead will be responsible for a particular area of the project and will be required to attend the daily management meetings. The leads will use this time to address concerns with their section of the project and provide updates on progress. They may also use the management meeting to bring up concerns and get feedback and suggestions from other team leads. Joe Young will be responsible for overseeing the project and maintaining contact and communication with all of the team leads. Joe will report to the CFO and the CEO and will be responsible for staying connected to Boeing and outside stakeholders for the duration of the project. The proposed budget is $1,285,000 split among the 5 sections of the project. Each section of the project has been allotted a certain amount of money as their maximum budget. The money was distributed based on the needs of that particular unit and it was not broken down easily. This is because each section has specific needs and not all sections require the same amount of work or employees. Purchasing machines is the unit that receives the most funding due to the cost of the machines and ensuring the proper number of toolkits for each machine. The second highest expenditure is the employee acquisition. In order to remain competitive in the market, UTC needs to ensure it compensates its employees adequately for new positions. This is the entire line item budget. On this slide, each main section of the project is broken down into their respective section and the required funding is shown. The budget provides information on not only the new items, but also the cost of current employees, such as human resources staff. As you can see, there is a small contingency built into the budget to help mitigate the risk of going over budget. The contingency is set aside as emergency money and will be allocated based upon the need and level of risk to the project. Extra funding must be approved by the team lead, project manager, and CFO of UTC before it can be spent. First, the budget is a major constraint of the project. Although there is a contingency built into the budget, there is always the chance that the project will exceed the outlined cost. This is considered a risk because if the project goes over budget, the outcome may not be worth the added expense to either UTC or Boeing, which could lead to problems in current and/or future contracts. Staying on budget is important for UTC as they can only commit to a certain amount of money to each project, and if this goes over budget, it may end up taking money from other projects which are equally as important. The goal is for UTC to obtain the outcome goals of this project within the constraints provided, as the current budget was based upon the best profit margin for UTC. This is a medium risk for the project manager because although there will be tracking and monitoring of the expenditures to limit the likelihood of going over budget, it is difficult to account for everything that could come up. Secondly, the timeline for this project is very strict. One of the main stakeholders in this project, Boeing, was a key player in identifying the project timeline. UTC will ultimately be responsible for carrying out the timeline, but Boeing pays UTC for the bearing deliveries and they are the primary reason for the timeline being 31 weeks. This is a major project with positive outcomes for both UTC and Boeing, and only if done on time. Keeping the timeline is important to both UTC and Boeing, as going over the timeline is likely to increase the budget. Therefore, this is a high risk factor for the project. One precipitating factor for the project was the untimely delivery of products to Boeing in the past. So if this project is not completed within the allotted time frame, it will not reflect positively on UTC and its employees. Lastly, it is difficult for the project manager to factor in and address problems that happen outside of his or her control. For example, bearings can only be created with the parts that are provided. UTC must receive these parts in the correct quantity, quality, and on time to be able to produce the bearings for Boeing. This is a high risk factor for the project manager because it is out of his or her control. It is difficult to be able to follow through on promised budget and timeline if one cannot account for things that are outside of the scope of control. This is considered a risk because Boeing expects with this project that bearing deliveries will double in size and be on time 99% of the time, and this is difficult to control and guarantee when the parts are made out of house and need to be delivered to UTC before production can begin. Risk mitigation is extremely important within any project and should be monitored by both the project lead and UTC. One risk that can be identified, monitored, and addressed as needed is the budget. It is imperative for UTC to maintain a strict budget on this project and identify any areas of waste that can be eliminated. The first step to managing the risk of going over budget is identifying a risk management team to monitor the budget and expenditures. The next step would be to provide a detailed description of what the budget entails to each stakeholder and party involved. Each area of the project is allotted a certain amount, so it is essential for the leads of those areas to understand how much they have been allotted and what this is to cover for them. Third, creating a system in which team leads can submit their receipts and spending to is an important step. This system should monitor their budget and provide a place for them to scan and submit receipts, which will then take the spent money from their available money. This provides an in-the-moment look at how each area has spent and what they have left in their budget. During the management meetings, there should be time to address the budget with both the entire project group as well as the individual leads to address any areas of concern. Providing an open place for the project leads to address their concerns and questions could potentially limit different areas making similar purchases and/or budgeting mistakes. At each stage of the project manager will have a meeting with the risk management team to explore any new budgeting risks that have arisen and will work to create a plan for addressing those. As the project continues and each area uses their allotted spending, the team monitoring the spending will inform the areas of their current monies available. As an area nears their budget maximum, there will be a meeting with the lead to discuss the remaining budget items and make sure that the needed items will not exceed the available monies. In conclusion, this project could not only lead to a better relationship with Boeing, but it also has the potential to lead to future contracts with them. Increasing the production of bearings and providing a more timely delivery is imperative to UTC and our stakeholders. Understanding the project goal and success outcomes helps all parties to enter into a mutually agreed upon project. UTC's goal for the bearing project would be to not only double our bearing output to 3,200 units per quarter, but also produce these on time 99% of the time. Please take a moment to look over the provided appendices with the project scope, project stakeholders, work breakdown structure, and activities of note diagram. I would be happy to answer any of the questions you may have. Thank you.